Hello everyone. I just wanted to give you a little bit of extra information regarding Project 5. I do encourage that you read these directions before you watch the video, just because I won't go over everything in this video, but I do want to just go through an example with you so that you kind of have an idea of what to expect in this project. So obviously we're going to be constructing some confidence intervals using StatCrunch, and so you can go ahead and open StatCrunch. Some of the questions will require that you use a data set, and so once you're in your My Math Lab, this is the first page that you should see. I think your guys's looks similar to mine, but you can click on View the Data Sets from your textbook, and these data sets will pop up, and then if the question is asking for you to use a data set, this is where they would be. Some of the questions, they give you everything that you need in the question and you don't need a data set, and so if that's the case, you can just open StatCrunch and go from there. But if it is asking you to use a data set, you'll get it from this list. So let me go back to the directions here. I want to explain a little bit about these three sets of directions here. The first one is for proportions, the second one is for means, and the third is for variance or standard deviation. And so all of these are directions that you will follow in StatCrunch, but you'll want to just check as you begin the problems and as you read through the problems, is the question talking about a mean or a proportion or a standard deviation, because that's how you'll know which set of directions to follow. And so they are slightly different in StatCrunch, and I'm going to go through one of those examples with you. And so let me click over to this example, and this isn't from the problems that you're doing, but it's very similar to some of those problems. And so this question says, refer to the dataset fast food and construct a 95% confidence interval estimate of the mean drive-through times for McDonald's at dinner. Then do the same for Burger King at dinner. Compare the results. So this is our question. And this one is asking us to use a data set, and it's asking for a 95% confidence interval of the mean drive-through times for McDonald's and Burger King. So another thing to pick up on is that it's asking us to do a confidence interval estimate of the mean. And so since that's the case, I'll go to the data set in a minute, but if we go back to our directions here, you can identify, okay, this is the set of directions that we're going to be following for this question. Since it's asking for a confidence interval that's dealing with the means of these drive-through times, we're going to need to follow these directions in StatCrunch. So let's go ahead and open the data set and take a look at what we're going to be working with. So we've got the data sets here. This one asked us to use fast food times, and I already have this one open over here. So if you open the data set, this is what you'll see. And then the question was asking for us to compare McDonald's dinner drive-through and Burger King dinner drive-through. So if we refer back to our set of directions, I'll walk you guys through these directions of getting the confidence intervals of those two restaurants. So if I click back over here, the directions to get the confidence intervals for the means say to click on Stat first in the top menu, then go to T-Stats, And we're only dealing with one sample, so we're going to click one sample. And then this time we're going to click with data because we actually are using this data set that we have. If there's a question that's asking you to find the confidence intervals of the means where you don't have the data set given to you in the problem, then you might use with summary. So keep that in mind for other questions that you'll use. But for this one, we're going to click with data. And then we have this drop down here to select all of the columns that we want to compute. And since our question was just asking for McDonald's dinner and Burger King dinner, and those are the two that we're comparing, I'm going to select both of those. Sometimes you have to hold down Command or Control to select more than one. So go ahead and select that. And then since we're doing a confidence interval, not a hypothesis test, I'm going to change this setting down here to confidence interval for the mean. We can confirm that yes, we do want this for the mean. And then we can set the confidence level. And the 95% was just the default that was already in here, and that's actually what our question was asking for. So I'm not going to change this time, but if it's asking you for a different confidence level, you can change that. So that's already in there, and then we're just going to click compute, and then we will get our lower limits and our upper limits for both of these restaurants. And so we have McDonald's on top, Burger King down here, and if I go back to our question, it asked us to compare the results. And so let's just take a look and see what were our results and what can we conclude from that. Who had the better drive-through times, McDonald's or Burger King? And so if we look at the limits for McDonald's, that was about 161 seconds to about 197 seconds, and for Burger King it was about 139 to 167 seconds. And so if we compare those two, it doesn't really seem like there's a significant difference between the two, but Burger King does seem slightly better. You know, it's a little bit faster because this lower limit is lower than McDonald's, but you know, if the question's asking you to write down some observations that you're making about the confidence interval or something like that, you can put kind of your analysis of what you can conclude from the confidence interval. And so that's something we could conclude from this one, that they are similar, but it does seem to appear that Burger King might have slightly faster times. And just one more thing to note, I do want you guys to copy your StatCrunch results for each question into a Word document, and you can just copy it from here, or you can just select it and copy it into your Word document, and that will just help me when I'm grading your answers to be able to look at what you actually put in StatCrunch, and that way I can give you good feedback if there's any questions that you miss. And then the other thing that I want to point out is the way that the lower limit and the upper limit are written. If you want to write out your answers, you can, but let me show you the way that you've probably seen these confidence intervals written out. So if we wanted to write out in the format for a confidence interval, each one, we could write it out this way with saying that the McDonald's confidence interval was 161 seconds to 197 seconds, and that was our lower and our upper limit. And then the same for Burger King. And if we wanted to use that notation for the confidence interval, we would use the less than signs and put the mean symbol here in between. And then again, you know, if we were doing it for a proportion and writing out our answer for the confidence interval for a question that's talking about the proportion, it would look the same. It would just have a P in here. Or if it was for standard deviation, we'd put in the symbol for standard deviation. So I just wanted to point that out because the display does look a little bit different, but this is really where we're looking, just for that lower limit and our upper limit. So let me know if you guys have questions. I know that's just one example and that one was on the mean, but as you're going through these 5 questions, just let me know if there's any that you have questions about, and I can help you look for the right set of directions and use those directions to get the confidence intervals. All right, thanks so much, and I look forward to seeing these projects.